Okay, Phil. So we're going to do, I think, a couple tonight, and I would definitely say these will be monologues because I can't contribute much of anything to either of them. So, and that's fine. I mean, I think I've seen the movie. So I say, I think you want to talk, I think, about To Sir with Love,
Yeah, I have to
Up
believe
the
you've seen that
Junction.
at some point.
I've seen it, but it was honestly
Yeah,
it's been so
long
long
ago.
ago that I've seen the whole thing. So
I
I
understand.
mean, I'm familiar enough with the movie and broad outline, and I love that book you had recommended a few years ago. What's the book about the five movies from 1968?
Oh, yes, yes. Oh, man.
God, I can't remember.
Um,
Such a
I'm
great
just
book.
totally blanking out. Michael Harris,
It'll
Pictures.
yeah,
No,
pictures out of Revolution, I think,
no,
right?
no. Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was confusing with the Peter Bart book about the 70s. Yeah, Pictures
Which
Out of Revolution.
I only read that about maybe a year ago, maybe and it actually made me want to check out the movie again, but I just haven't gotten around to
I
it.
think I have the author's name wrong. Anyway, go ahead, Scott. I'm just going to check the
And
other
Up the Junction, which I know as the title of a
one.
Squeeze song. I
Squeeze
assume
cover,
that has
yeah.
something to do with the movie, but I did listen to the two songs that are in. I'm unfamiliar with the two songs. Um, so why don't you take it away and just was there a reason you wanted to lump those two together, or
Well, yeah, they definitely belong together. Number one, they have overlap in a couple of actresses. Um, the star of Up the Junction, Susie Kendall, she gets, I think, third billing in To Serve with Love. It's weird because To Serve with Love comes out in 67 and she's playing a teacher, a high school teacher. And then Up the Junction comes out in 68, but she's playing a 20-year-old socialite. That makes no sense. And the other actresses, here I made up a little Google document so I could check my
Lipman?
facts.
Is it Lipman?
No,
Adrienne
it's
Lipman?
Adrienne Posta,
Okay.
and she just plays one of the students in To Serve with Love. In Up the Junction, she plays one of the factory workers who, one of two sisters, one of the two who sings in the clip that I picked. And she gets pregnant, and Susie Kendall takes her for an abortion. So it's got some overlap in the cast. And then also, they're just very similar. You know, they were made a year apart. They're both very heavily concerned with class, you know, British class system. They're kind of like an extension of the early 60s kitchen sink British films like Saturday Night and Sunday Morning and Loneliness and Long Distance Runner and Don't Look Back or Look Back in Anger. But they're in color as opposed to black and white, and they're more, both of them have great soundtracks. The other ones didn't really have anything in the way of music. And the other similarity is the directors of them are not well known at all. And they both really went on to do very little after these films. I checked James Clavell. Now, I think he may have done Hawaii on, I think he did Shogun on television. I think. So I shouldn't say he didn't do anything of prominence. But in his filmography, theatrical films, the only one he actually made after that, no, sorry, he didn't make anything that really got it. No, James Clavell. It was the guy that wrote Shogun who's a Clavell. Maybe it's James
Yeah,
Clavell.
I was thinking. Well, I was just going to look it up because I was thinking,
Yeah, look it
isn't
up. It
James
could be the
Clavell
same
the
guy.
author of Shogun?
Yeah, is he a writer? Also a writer?
I always
Because
picture the book as being by James Clavell.
yeah, in terms of films, he really did nothing after To Serve with Love. He only made four more films. None of them got any attention. 67, another one in 67, 69, 71, and a TV movie in 82. So he definitely didn't do Shogun. Maybe he wrote it. I don't know. And then Peter Collinson, who directed Up the Junction, made about 10 more films, but the only one that made any kind of a mark was he directed the original Italian Job with Michael Caine,
Hmm.
which is sort of a famous British spy film. So that's what the two have in common. They just kind of make perfect sense together. I guess probably I'll talk. I think I only need about 10 minutes on each. So probably start with Up the Junction since it's a lesser known and I have a little bit less to say about it. So it comes out in 68. It took me the longest time to see it. And by the way, Scott, if at any point tonight I do this, remind me to lean back because I
Yeah, I've
noticed
been
the last two
thinking.
clips.
I'm bad at reminding you, and then I notice it when I'm
I know, and I look like
editing
an
this too.
idiot. Um, So I took forever to see it. Something turned me off about seeing it. I don't know whether it was the title or maybe I did associate it with that Squeeze cover, even though I'd never heard it, and I'm not really much of a Squeeze fan.
I do like
So
that song, actually. I'll just say
it's
I
a
do.
it's a really good song. The Manfred Mann original shows
No,
up
I
in the
mean even the Squeeze song. I
Okay,
do
I'm
like the
sure it
Squeeze
is.
song,
Yeah.
but
No, I'm sure it is because it's just a good song. It shows up over the opening and closing credits, very moody. Um, so I just didn't watch it for the longest time, even though I was aware of it. And I found a reissue about 3, 4 years ago on Olive, which is like a second tier Criterion. You know, they reissue some interesting films. The weird thing is, I had no recollection at all, even though it was only 3 or 4 years ago when I watched it. When I watched it yesterday and today, other than the scene, which I picked, which I've watched numerous times since then, it's like I remember nothing about the film. I even wondered, did I actually watch the whole film? So I
wow.
went back and checked my entry. I did, but I didn't say really anything about. I just wrote a little bit about the film in the book, and I talked really just about the clip. I said nothing about the film. I'm wondering if it was one where after the clip I nodded off the first time. I don't know, but it was like watching it all over again. And it's a really good film. It's very interesting. It's about this woman who's just sort of Susie Kendall. She kind of appears out of nowhere to look. She's looking for a job in a factory one day, and everybody picks up on the fact right away that she doesn't really belong. It's in a part of London that's very, very working class, which is just like To Serve with Love, the school that Sidney Poitier goes to teach at. And she just doesn't look like any of the other women. There's something kind of refined about her, and yet she wants to get a job at the factory. She wants to fit in. She wants to live. Oh, it's in Battersea. You've been to England, right? Do you know where
No,
Battersea
I've
is?
never been to England. No.
Okay, I guess it's just a suburb of London, or maybe even part of London. And she wants to fit in. She wants to do what they do. She wants to go to the pub. She wants to get her apartment in Battersea. And when she hooks up with this guy, and it's got this really interesting contrast between the two of them. He, of course, wants out. He hates this place, and he doesn't understand why she wants to live there, why she doesn't want to go to the West End of London when they go out to a restaurant or a movie. She wants to stay in Battersea. Um, and there's a bit of a surprise at the end in terms of how he and the others view her. I would recommend it's on YouTube for $4. I don't want to really say what happens at the end. I would recommend that, if you
Okay.
have a night to watch it because you'll love the soundtrack. And the film itself is really good.
And sorry, did you say it's all Manfred Mann, the soundtrack, or
Yes,
okay?
yes, there might be a bit of incidental jazzy music
And
there.
like anything by them that I might know, like
Not their famous
any of
songs,
their hits. Okay.
not Pretty Flamingo, or certainly not Do Wah Diddy.
Yeah.
I think it was actually just written as a soundtrack. I'd say there's about 3 or 4 Manfred Mann songs. And one thing that's interesting in terms of the music is, and I'll describe the scene I picked in a minute, but that song turns up again later in the film, almost a Muzak-y version, which reminded me. I wonder if Robert Altman had seen this film because he did the same thing in The Long Goodbye. He had the song The Long Goodbye turn up actually about 5 or 6 different times in totally different versions, as cocktail jazz,
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like the way he
yeah,
did that actually. Yeah.
as Muzak, as this woman
Wasn't
singing
there
in
even a Randy? Was there a
cinema.
Randy Newman version or something?
Randy Newman's done soundtrack work with Robert Altman, but not that was way
Okay.
too soon. That's 73.
Yeah.
So, other than the Manfred Mann film, I don't know they've ever, other than Up the Junction, I don't know they've ever seen that done before. And this is
Oh,
five
that's
years,
great.
5 years before. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the scene I picked, it's very early in the film. Um, she's gotten a job at the factory. They make chocolates, I think, and it's kind of a dingy place. And immediately she befriends these 2 sisters. And they say, look, do you want to go out with us tonight? We all go to the pub. And it's just great. They go to the pub, and there's about 5 minutes of just talking at the tables. And there's guys there that want to pick them up. They're all younger and attractive, especially Susie Kendall. I quoted the Internet Movie Database in my little write-up in the book, and I'll just quote it again. The entry for Susie Kendall describes her as a doe-eyed, honey blonde actress of extraordinary beauty. Which she is in a very kind of down-to-earth way. She's beautiful in To Serve With Love. She's very beautiful in Up the Junction. Although she goes out and she gets her hair changed at one point. I think she looks more beautiful in her natural sort of blonde state. She seems slightly older than some of the famous 60s models like Jane Asher and
Chrissy Shrimpton
Judy Geeson and Jean Shrimpton and Twiggy. Yeah, she seems maybe, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years older.
Okay.
Anyway, they all go to the pub, and suddenly I guess these two sisters are well known for just singing at pubs and things. So they all urge her. And I was saying, yeah, there's guys there that want to get together with them, and they're all talking, having a good time. And a whole bunch of people urge them to go up and sing a song. And I think you have seen this clip. I sent it to you once. Maybe I should have sent it again tonight. So they get up there and they sing this Manfred Mann song called "I Need Your Love." Need your love. And at first I thought, and I said this in the entry in the book, I literally thought they were doing some famous girl group song, or at least a British version of girl group. Like I thought more maybe a Petula Clark or Dusty Springfield song. Not a Supremes or Chiffons or anything, not an American girl group song, but it is just so perfect. And I realized it's the only song in the book I chose that kind of broke an unspoken rule that was that I would only choose songs that were pop songs, legitimate pop songs. I would never, the only other time I came close was for Mr. Robot. I almost chose the karaoke Everybody Wants to Rule the World. But otherwise, it's all pop musicians playing their own songs, I think. And this one, it's just two actresses singing the Manfred Mann song, but they are so good. And the scene is just fantastic. Everybody in the pub is loving them. This older woman who they work with, she gets up and she does this impromptu dance. It's just great. And they're hamming around up there, but they touch just the right note of shyness. And we see Susie Kendall out there singing. And it's just such a kind of joyous 2 minutes of film. And when I wrote the entry, I put it together with this scene from Maggie's Plan where they have kind of a karaoke. There's a cover of Dancing in the Dark by a Moldy Peaches type group, which sounds really strange, I know. And then everybody in the pub there gets up and sings along. And it reminded me of something Rob had written in his karaoke book about
Rob Sheffield.
Rob Sheffield. He's in the middle of, I don't know, Idaho or somewhere, and the whole place is going crazy. They're singing karaoke to this one song, and he writes about that really vividly. And both these films reminded me of that. It's one of the best sing-alongs, if not the best sing-along I've ever seen in a film. It's just a beautiful scene. And the rest of the film, besides that, and besides the very interesting stuff about class that dominates the rest of the film, it's got some really beautiful photography, and even hooked in with the music. She wanders around as this Manfred Mann ballad plays 2 or 3 times in the film, and it's got a good 2 or 3 minutes of her wandering around. Or maybe she's inside the factory and she's looking at all the people that work there, and the Manfred Mann song is playing. That's a really good scene too. So I highly recommend it.
So I am a little confused, I've got to say, because, and I think I have seen the scene. I think you did send it to me, and it was a long time ago I watched it. But when I look up that song by Manfred Mann, and it's called "I Need Your Love," right?
Yeah.
And maybe it's just an availability thing. Like when I look it up on Spotify, the only version on Spotify is like a short instrumental version. It's like maybe it's the other version you mentioned.
Well, you know what? That could
jazzy thing.
That could
and
be
then
the one.
on YouTube, it looks like the same thing. I can only find this one version. I can't find a version with vocals. So I'm kind
You
of,
know what? I'll bet you that's the one. I call it a Miyazaki version. I'll bet you that's the Manfred Mann version.
but it's
So
weird
they
that I
must
can't
have.
find like was the one in the movie that you're referring to, maybe it wasn't released on an album or something? I don't know.
You
I can't
talking
find,
about the one in the pub or the Manfred
yeah,
Mann?
the one in the pub. Like I can't find a version by Manfred Mann
Well,
that
you can find it on YouTube, but it's not listed under the song title. You just type in "Up the Junction pub scene" or something.
okay, okay,
They don't actually include the title.
okay.
I know there's a soundtrack for Up the Junction, and I have to believe that includes the pub sing along. I'm guessing.
Right, actually, and I'm looking at it on Wikipedia now, and it's track the track one is up, although that's no, that's called Up the Junction actually.
Right. Do they have "Need Your Lovin' Twice" on
Yeah,
that
but it's they have I
soundtrack?
need no, but they have I Need Your Love Only Once, and it's a minute 41, and that's the version, that's the
Yeah.
cocktail lounge version.
Okay.
So a bit of a mystery. I don't
So
know.
that is, yeah,
Is
I
it
called it
later in the
duets.
movie that this pub scene happens?
Yeah, it is later. It's when they go to, he finally talks her into going to a nice place. So they go to wherever the water is in London, and they go to a nice hotel, and it's playing, I think, as they're checking in.
Oh, okay.
And that's 3/4 or 4/5 of the way through the film. So
Now,
maybe
okay.
maybe the version that I picked is never made it to vinyl. It could
Yeah,
just be,
maybe that's what it is, right? Maybe it's
yeah.
just in the movie.
But the weird thing is, they're singing. I mean, did they specially write lyrics for that scene, or did Manfred Mann write the lyrics for that scene, but not in their short instrumental version? I don't know.
Yeah, strange.
I really don't know.
And I noticed there's a couple versions of the song Up the Junction, but interesting.
Huh.
But
I
I should
played.
clarify too, just because we always leave these things in. I was kind of joking early on when I said I like the Squeeze. I don't think the Squeeze song Up the Junction is a cover. I think they wrote a song about. Oh, I'm going to listen to this other Up the Junction. I have a feeling the
Yeah,
Squeeze song is an original, and it just has the title Up the Junction. It's a
could be
pretty great song though, actually.
could
So
be a reference to the movie. Yeah.
that's what I was thinking. Actually, it sounded like a very contemporary song lyrically and stuff, but I could be wrong. So
When I listened to the Up the Junction, which is very moody and beautiful, so and then I listened to two of the other songs, I had a feeling. I shouldn't say that because it's 1968, and Odyssey and Oracle comes a year later, right? Because I was thinking maybe they were trying to do what the Zombies did with Odyssey and Oracle, but it's not. It's not that it's psychedelic or anything, but it's got a certain. It doesn't sound like the other Manfred Mann stuff
oh,
from
okay,
3 or 4 years earlier. It doesn't even sound like Pretty Flamingo.
okay.
Um, and I don't know what else to say about the film. It just, I was really surprised, more so tonight, because like I say, I hardly even mentioned the film when I wrote about it the first time. I don't know why. I guess because it was sharing. It was one of those quicker entries, and it was sharing space with Maggie's plan. Uh, when I watched it yesterday and today, I said, this is just a really good film. It really is.
Okay, great.